Hey everybody, welcome back to Sierra's Science channel and welcome to a new video. Welcome to the first time that I'm sitting down in my room from home since I moved out of my dorm. I feel like I never told that full story, but basically with coronavirus, I moved out of my dorm and I'm back home for the rest of the semester. So it's the first time that I'm like actually sitting down and like talking to the camera since I've been back home for a couple weeks. So welcome. Here is the setup for the time being. Today we're doing the Booktube Real Talk 2.0 tag. I can't even say this, hold on, what is it called? Today we're doing the Booktube Real Talk 2.0 tag. I was tagged by Casey from Casey Can Reads. I will pop her here. Please go subscribe to her. I love her and I love watching her videos, so thank you for tagging me. I'm gonna make this super quick because I have something to do here soon, so let's get started. First question is, if you could give yourself one piece of advice when you started making videos, what would it be? If you never watched my Booktube newbie tag, then you might not know that YouTube is not new for me. It's not like making videos is not something that's new to me. I was actually doing this back in like 2013, 2012-ish, and I was under a totally different channel, totally different name and stuff. So making videos is actually not that new to me. It's just something that I like re-picked up at the beginning of summer last year. And yeah, so with a little bit of a background in making videos, there's like, I've already kind of worked through the trials and errors of like how I have my editing style. Like I already know what my editing style is and things. But I think that one thing that I'm always trying to do, and one piece of advice that I'm constantly trying to implement, is to just try something new with every video that I do. So this is particularly for like my reading journal videos. I'm trying to make my spreads differently, trying to come up with new spreads ideas and things like that. But also just like new editing tricks every single time that I'm editing a video, and that's one piece of advice that I give myself and that I am trying to follow. The next question is, what are your thoughts on cancel culture? So this is an interesting question. Cancel culture is effective only in certain situations. So I actually just attended like a webinar, a professional development webinar for my job on cancel culture, and basically what I learned from that webinar is that like there are times when calling somebody out for doing something that is outright harmful is appropriate, but there's also a need to empathize more with people, especially online when you're just behind a screen or a username, and try to call them in and try to build connection between understandings of the world. So like the things that you see are different than the things that other people see. So I think that cancel culture has put the emphasis on just shutting somebody else down because they don't agree with the way that you see the world. In other situations, I think it's more appropriate to try to approach the situation calmly and not call somebody out, and rather just try to have a conversation rather than shutting someone down and telling them that they're like inherently wrong. So I think that in general, this generation really needs to practice having some more empathy, and that's on that. The third question is, do you consider Booktube a welcoming community? So I watched Casey's video before I made my video just to see the questions, and one thing that I have to like echo from her video that I didn't even think about when I was originally planning to answer this question is that while my personal self has experienced Booktube to be a extremely welcoming community, everybody has given me so much love and so much support. Booktube has just been amazing, and I've connected with some really nice people here. But to echo Casey in her video is that it's not welcoming for everybody, and I don't personally know anybody that has had a problem with Booktube or having like controversies with Booktube, but I mean, I guess I really can't speak for everybody and say that everybody has had a positive experience because apparently some people haven't. But for me, it has been an extremely welcoming community, and every time I come on here and I read my comments, I feel exactly like the shirt that I'm wearing. You see the rainbow? That's how I feel when I read my comments. Thank you. Question number 4 is, what are your thoughts on book consumerism? Do you feel pressure to buy books? So this is an interesting question too, because I do struggle with like consumerist culture and knowing that I do need to be a good consumer or just like a more conscious consumer. However, I have kind of like an exception for books because I think that they are inherently valuable and they always have something to offer, whether it's just mental like stimulation or intellectual knowledge or just like plain aesthetic or like value in having them. So I really don't apply the same kind of like thoughts on consumerism to books just because I think that they have inherent value, like I said. I don't know, it's not something that I've put a lot of mental energy into thinking about, so that could be like an ignorant point of view or perspective, but as of right now, I don't really consider like buying books like a consumerist culture. Pressure to buy books? Not really. I read what I want to read when I want to read it, and I mean, yeah, I get into like hype things on Instagram and stuff, like hyped books and new releases and NetGalley things and things like that, but I rarely ever buy books just because they're hyped. I buy a book if I want to read it, if the synopsis sounds like interesting, because I think of every book that I buy as an investment. Like, hardcovers are expensive, okay, so I have to save my money. 5 is, do you take part in readathons, and what are your thoughts on them? So I definitely do not take part in readathons. I honestly do not own enough books that fit the prompts for most readathons, if I'm being honest. And it's like, even if I did, they're probably books that I have already read, because most of the books that I own I have read. I don't have that very high of a like physical TBR. So it's like I never have new books to read because I don't buy them that often, it feels like. So I definitely do not take part in readathons, just because, like, I don't know, the structure of it stresses me out, the timeline of it stresses me out. I don't know how y'all did the reading rush a couple months ago, but congrats, because I could not have done that. But yeah, but my thoughts on them is that they seem really fun, and I love watching reading vlogs from readathons, so I love watching them. Don't really love taking part in them, mostly because I can't, but yeah, the people that do and the people that complete them, good job. And for the 6th question, or more so task for this tag, is to recommend a book that has an issue or topic that you are passionate about. So I could not choose. I have 2 books here that I'm going to talk about very briefly because I already have reviews of them on my blog, but the 2 books that I have that I want to talk about real fast is Don't Read the Comments by Eric Smith and Lab Girl by Hope Jahren. So Don't Read the Comments is a book that I got off of NetGalley back in December, and it was a book that I picked up just because it seemed kind of relevant. It was a contemporary. I was looking for something very, like, you know, fluffy and light and just, you know, something easy to read, because at the time I was taking a major trip to Costa Rica for like 2 weeks and I didn't have any cell service, so I needed a bunch of books to read and a bunch of books that I thought that I was gonna like. So I got this from NetGalley. I was approved and I read it on my Kindle, and this book really blew me away with just the amount of social commentary that it packed in the little pages that it is. It's a very short book. I adored this book. I adored this book so much that even though I got it for free through NetGalley, I actually did the pre-order campaign and bought the hardcover version of the book, just because, like, I knew after I finished it that I needed it and that I would want to take pictures with it and just like always have it to reread in physical format someday. This book talks about a lot of different things, like online harassment, sexism in the gaming community. It talks about online friendships. It talks about how online harassment can translate to actual real life harassment and stalking. It just talks about so many things, online privacy, and just, I loved this book. It's a realistic fiction, so it takes place in like New Jersey, I believe, or something, but it also has the online world of Reclaim the Sun, which is the game that Divya and Aaron play, and that's how they meet. And just like, I love this book so much. There was a lot that I had to say about it in my written review, so if you want to know more of my thoughts about it, it's on my blog. And the final book that I'm going to talk about to wrap up this tag is Lab Girl by Hope Jahren. If you know me, I'm an environmental science major in college, so this book was right up my alley. It's about Hope Jahren as a woman in science, her life, like, it's a memoir about her life and her road to her career and her battle with mental health, like with a bipolar disorder. I think it's manic bipolar disorder. So she is just an amazing author, an amazing person. Reading about her story was so impactful to me as like an aspiring and upcoming, hopefully, environmental scientist. So this was a really impactful book for me, just the representation of women in science, and especially natural science. I love this book. I love this book. It's not a book for everybody, obviously, because it deals with a very specific field of study, but for me, it was really, really good. Also, she has a new book coming out, or no, it came out. It's like The Story of Change, something like that. I requested on NetGalley. NetGalley, if you see this, anybody from NetGalley, please approve me, because I want to read the book so bad. It's like the story of climate change and how we got to it and where we go from here, something like that. It's a super long title, but I'm really excited to read it, and I love Hope Jahren, and if you're a natural science major, a woman in natural science, pick up this book and her newest book. Alright, that wraps up this tag. Thank you so much again to Casey for tagging me and allowing me to do this video. If you want to partake, consider yourself tagged, and I will see you all in the and I will see you all on the channel next Sunday. Bye, everybody!